Andy Herman, the Pack a Day podcast at Andy Herman NFL on X. All right, Andy, we can spend a few minutes revisiting Thanksgiving. How are you? Good to see you. How was your turkey? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, my God, the Bears. But first, all that stuff on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you thought I had turkey on Thanksgiving? Are you unfamiliar with my game?
I know better.
There's pizza on Thanksgiving for me. No turkey, but no. Obviously, it was a fantastic Thanksgiving, fun day when the Packers get a huge win against Detroit, knock him down to about 30% chance to make the playoffs for Detroit, which is fun. They're on the outside looking in, and meanwhile, Green Bay getting set to face Chicago with a chance to pull ahead in the NFC North and go up quite a bit in the standings. So now that it was an awesome week last week, and we get set for a very, very fun week with Chicago and Green Bay coming up this week.
Yeah, Andy, I've been having problems not focusing on the Bears. I've been spending a lot of time on playoff predictors. I'm going to try to hold this off as long as I can. What was it about the game against the Lions that you saw that went, okay, this team has found a new groove?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think we all love the way that Matt managed that game from both a play calling standpoint and an overall aggression standpoint. Going more aggressive on fourth downs. I also think that part of it is just being successful on those plays. Dan Campbell was aggressive too on fourth down. He went 0 for 2. The Packers were aggressive on fourth down. They went 3 for 3. And 2 of those were extremely razor-thin margins. The one to Dontavian Wicks, obviously, in the end zone, and the one to Dontavian Wicks at the end of the game. If those go a different way, and all of a sudden Green Bay's in a different situation, everyone's like, well, those are, Matt should have taken the points on the first one, and why didn't he just punt the ball away on the last one and make them drive the length of the field? And we second-guess everything, right? So I think when guys execute for you on the field, you in general look like a better coach. But I think what I loved about it was in Minnesota, he clearly had a vision for that game of, hey, we're going to be conservative in this game. We do not think J.J. McCarthy can beat us. We're going to take points when we've got the opportunity to get points. We're going to punt the ball away when we are in fourth and long situations. We're going to play a conservative game because that is what serves us best in this game. And they played that through line the entirety of the game, and it worked perfectly for them. And then in Detroit, they did the exact opposite. They said, hey, we don't think playing a conservative game is going to get us through a game in Detroit to get us a win. So the entirety of the game, they played aggressive, and they did that. And to me, regardless of results in those situations, I enjoy the process in both of those of saying, hey, that's what they needed to do in both those games. It's awesome that they got the results, but I love the vision for both of them, and I can live with the vision, whatever happens at the end of it. So I love the way that he managed that game. I love the way that he play called that game. Obviously, Jordan had a lot of opportunity to have the ball in his hands. I also think part of that is based on what Detroit did. Detroit was a little bit more aggressive at the line of scrimmage. That's what they do. They play more man-to-man coverage than most teams. And for Green Bay, they like to see that stuff. The soft, too high shell is what gives them a little bit more of a problem. They didn't see as much of it. And because of it, Jordan was able to, kind of cook a little bit more. So I still think when teams play Green Bay in that too high soft cover, too shell, or, cover 4, whatever it ends up being, they're going to have to find ways still to beat that. I still think their run after the catch is going to be paramount. Getting Jaden Reed back, Matthew Golden back should hopefully help a ton with that. But I think part of this was the game that was needed, the way that Detroit kind of called that game. But I also hope in a way that Matt kind of found some things that for this team moving forward, if you can manage and coach a game like this, this is kind of more the way that you go, and it fits the DNA of this team a little bit better.
Andy Herman and the Pack a Day podcast joining us on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network guest hotline, powered by Gruber Law. One call, that's all. Josh said earlier in the show that he didn't think Jordan Love had a great game.
Yeah, good game.
I'm not sure what would require, statistically speaking, for Jordan Love to have a great game instead of just a good game. But last I checked, 18 of 30 for 234, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a 124.2 passer rating seems pretty great to me, Andy. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna knock him down for anything, certainly that first drive where he's got the opportunity to Bo Melton for the touchdown. And the odd thing about that is he didn't have to be pinpoint or precise on that throw. He certainly had leeway, right? So just to kind of loft it up, and Melton's probably going to score on that play. And then the following play comes back on the crosser to Christian Watson. Looks like he's got Watson on that crosser and misses him on that one. I don't know if he was just a little bit amped up early in the game or whatever it was, but those two throws he certainly like to have back. From that point forward, I thought he was outstanding. And I think what you have to look at in this game as well are a couple things. The Lions had 14 pressures in this game, and they had 0 sacks. And that's a huge testament to Jordan with what he was able to do. We always, not me, but some people always talk about he's throwing off his back foot too much. And it's like, yeah, in some cases, it's absolutely true that he doesn't need to. But look at the Christian Watson throw on the touchdown deep down the field. Steps into that beautifully because he's got a pocket to step into. On a lot of those plays, he didn't. And even on some of those out routes that are, even if you're stepping into them, sometimes dangerous, he's fading away and throwing across the field on an out route and still getting the ball there with precision and timing. He's hitting some of those throws where, again, off the back foot, the final throw of the game is a perfect example of this, where Aleem McNeil gets pressure inside right away, and he's got to make a pinpoint pass to give Dontavian Wicks just a chance at that. The throw on 4th down to Dontavian Wicks is an absurd throw. Maybe even if there's anything you're going to question, maybe the decision making, but there's not a lot of options on the play, and he puts it where only Dontavian Wicks can get it, and Wicks obviously pays that off. And then the other aspect of it isn't just the pressure, but if you look at the statistics of how many times he had to throw into tight windows in that game, and then in like the degree of difficulty on some of those throws, did his receivers pay it off? Again, does it look a little bit better because Wicks made some great plays and things like that? Sure.
That was my point.
I also thought there were plays where Watson, if he just maybe comes back to the ball a little bit more, or is able to, kind of fight through some of the contested stuff, maybe has a couple more catches. So I thought after that first drive, where again, he has 2 plays he'd probably like to have back. I don't know what more he could have done to play a better brand of football than he did the rest of that game.
Yeah, I think that if there was one award to give out, I would say that one goes to the receiving core. I thought that there were just a ton of amazing catches made that were not put right on the money. And they went and they caught the ball. And I mean, the big one I always think of, not only just that Wicks at the end, but that Wicks 4th down to get into the end zone. I mean, running away from Love to turn, to grab that, and then have to turn towards the end zone to get that ball in before being pushed out of bounds was incredible. That was an absolutely incredible catch by Wicks. That I'm just saying, you look at those stats, you just read the stat line, and you don't take the degree of difficulty and what the wide receivers did in that game. We're not talking about Jordan Love with 4 touchdowns. So that was my whole thing, the whole reason for why I said that. Yeah,
what I would say though is I don't think, as at least watching it back, I don't think he had better options. He had to put those the 2 plays to Wicks, I think, are a perfect example of, he had to put those where they were. It's 4th down. You don't have a choice to do much else. And he put them in a spot where only his, receiver had the opportunity to go get it. And one of the things that, listen, this is not a disparaging comment towards, what I think is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time in Aaron Rodgers. If there's one nit I had to pick with Aaron at times, is he loved having his perfect windows and his perfect throwing alleys. And at times it felt like he didn't give his receivers just a chance to go up and win. And when you're one-on-one and you've got an opportunity, a lot of those times those receivers are going to pay that off for you. And one of the things that I enjoy about Jordan is if you're one-on-one and he sees you, he's going to give you a chance. He's going to give you that ability to go make a play. And I love that about him. And hey, it's not always going to work out. Sometimes you're going to get some contested incompletions. Sometimes you might end up with a pick, but he's got a 0.8% interception percentage on the season. That is like Aaron Rodgers, the most risk-averse quarterback in the history of the world, is at like 1.3, 1.4 something for his career. And Jordan this year is at 0.8%. It's remarkable, some of the stuff he's doing. And again, I thought he was phenomenal in that game.
Andy Herman, the Pack a Day podcast, joins us on Inside Wisconsin Sports. All right, so we go forward. Bears. Yeah. Chicago leaned very heavy run and pretty much controlled the Eagles up front. And that's scary because Devontae Wyatt will no longer be with the Packers the rest of the season, per reports.
Yep.
How worried are we about the front 7 on the Packers D all of a sudden, which is nuts to say that that's a problem, but injuries are what they are.
Yeah, I think the first thing that, at least Wyatt's a really good player. He's not the most dominant run defender in the world. So I'm less concerned about that. But what he does bring to the table is he's just a really sound overall defensive tackle that's good against the run and is a plus pass rusher from the inside and on the interior. And as we hear Micah Parsons talk about all the time, just his value to the defensive line as a whole. And it really, hurts your rotation, because now you're having to play maybe more, Brinson, Brooks, and Stackhouse than you would probably like to be playing. And if we're being totally honest too, this was a defensive tackle room that was built about a week going into the season with Kenny Clark and Devontae Wyatt expecting to be the top two players in that defensive tackle room. And now you don't have Clark for good reason. And you have Wyatt for unfortunate reasons. Thankfully, Colby Wooden has stepped up big this year. And I think he's been a really sound run defender. But there are a few signs as of late of him just kind of slowing down a little. This is the most Colby Wooden's played in a season in a long time. And I don't know if he's just wearing down a little bit or what it might be, but there are some signs there. I am extremely buoyed by the fact that I think Warren Brinson is playing some really good football, kind of, I wouldn't say out of nowhere, but he's continued to get better through the course of the season. But they're going to need Carl Brooks to come back this week. I'm very interested to see what they do at that defensive tackle position. Are they just bringing James Esther up to the active roster? Do they sign a defensive tackle off of somebody else's practice squad or from the free agent list? Those are some options that they're going to have to look at. But Wyatt is certainly a loss. What I do love is that this team does really good team defending. They set the edges well. There were a couple plays against Gibbs, one for Gary, one for Parsons, that I thought could have been a little bit better this past week, but they generally set the edges well. Those safeties come flying down. We've seen Evan Williams do it over and over again. Javon Bullard from the slot in the nickel situation is a really good slot defender as a run defender in nickel. Their linebackers, we'll see if they get Quay back, but McDuffie's played really well, especially in run defense in his couple of games where he's had to fill in. They have the pieces that they need to still be a sound run defense group, but certainly Devontae Wyatt being out and shortening that rotation or making players have to play more on the interior doesn't help you. And how they respond to that and how they play against this Bears offensive line is going to go a long way in deciding a huge portion of this game.
So obviously we're going to talk to you on Friday too, kind of previewing Packers Bears, but focusing on the Bears Eagles game, because going into that game on Black Friday, I feel like a lot of people were using that as the test to see, all right, is this Bears team legitimate, or have they just gotten lucky looking at how they won a lot of their games early on in the season? Did your opinion of the Bears and how you feel as a fan and someone that analyzes the Packers change going into this game, or how the Packers need to look at this game based on the Bears and Eagles game on Friday?
Yeah, it did a little bit, simply because listen, I think Philly is starting to have some real issues of their own. And I think we're seeing that manifest itself week in and week out. So I don't think they're necessarily playing great football. I really wish Green Bay would have been able to beat them at home because of that as well. They didn't. But I do think no matter what, going into Philly, especially playing against that defense, who's still been really, really good for Philly, the last month, especially since kind of the trade deadline, and going in there and getting that win is impressive. But what I'll also say on top of that is, listen, I know you look at their schedule, the Raiders, the Saints, the Commanders without, just in general, the Bengals without Joe Burrow, the Giants, the Vikings, even the Steelers win looks less impressive now, right? Like, it's not a lot of great wins on their schedule. What I would say, though, is that in this league right now, as we have seen week in and week out, listen, when you win, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of 10, 9 out of 10 games, I don't really care who it's against right now. We are seeing this very much as a week-to-week league. You are showing that you know how to win football games and come out the other side of it one way or the other. And I don't think the Bears are this Super Bowl contending team this year. I don't put them in that category, but I think they're a good football team. I think Ben Johnson has them playing well. I think Ben Johnson has them playing with a ton of confidence, which a lot of times can cover a lot of other ills when you're playing with that level of confidence. And right now, they are a pain for anybody to play. I don't think anybody would be excited to play this team. And more importantly, maybe for their long-term approach, is Ben Johnson quickly has buy-in from that team. And there's no quite like they love playing for him, and they now are all in with what he is selling, and they are ahead of schedule. So regardless of whether or not they're a contender right now, having to play them 2 times in the next 3 weeks is not a fun thing. And I think in the long term, they're at least, if nothing else, very much trending in the right direction.
In the most heterosexual way, I want Matt Laflur to rip his shirt off in that locker room if the Bears lose to the Packers this weekend. I really do.
I'm sure Matt has, he hasn't forgotten the comments, first of all, from Ben Johnson in the offseason. That was a very odd sort of thing, but it happens in every Bears press conference. They talk about, for an opening new coach or GM, they talk about the Packers in some capacity, and that was no different. And then yes, the Ben Johnson shirt off, which, listen, that stuff can play really well, early on. Remember the Matt Nagy, they did like the locker room, like DJ sessions after the game, and it's all amazing and everything. And then things go south and all of a sudden that stuff doesn't play quite as well. So we'll see how that ages with time, but a fun little moment there, I guess, for Ben Johnson in the moment.
We'll chat with you Friday. Andy Herman, the Pack a Day podcast. Follow him on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. Good to see you, man.
Hey, appreciate you guys. Enjoy the week.
Thanks, Andy.
Andy Herman on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network.